Have you ever walked the edge of a memory and felt the sea answering back? What if a city loved by gods slept not in books but beneath waves that remember prayers? Imagine stone streets humming with temple bells, and then, one morning, only salt and wind remain. Who carries the story forward? The sea, the poet, or the one who dared to listen? This is a story of Dwarka, Krishna's city, not merely a place on a map, but a living idea, a kingdom of laughter and counsel, of lovers and uprooted fate. Today we will step slowly into the glitter of palace lamps, into the hush of oceans, into the pages of ancient singers, and into the minds of those who study stones and sea. We will ask, what was Dwarka? How did it live? How perhaps did it sink? And why does its memory still shape who we are? Close your eyes. See a coast of flat, bright sands and jagged reefs. Fishermen bring early morning nets crowded with silver. The air smells of salt and jasmines carried from the inner courtyards. Here, a harbor opens like a palm, ships anchoring, merchants speaking names from distant markets, dancers practicing before dawn. This is the scene the stories give us. A maritime capital, wealthy, cosmopolitan, at the western edge of the subcontinent. In the telling, Dwarka is no ordinary town. It is a planned city of palaces and fortifications, of wide lanes and temple enclosures, turned toward both the sea and Dharma, toward duty, devotion, and destiny. The era ascribed to these events is the end of the Dwapar Yuga, an age in which gods walk among men, where heroes move the world with speech and arrow and love. The rulers who populate this memory belong to a clan, the Yādavas, fierce, proud, and skilled in statecraft and song. Their patron is Krishna, friend to cowherds, statesman to kings, lover to the brave-hearted. The city exists also in the geography of Gujarat, in a stretch of coast that meets the Arabian Sea, where estuaries braid and stones keep unpleasant secrets. Remember, this is not a modern photograph we hold. It is an accumulation of songs, of ritual memory, of pilgrims' footsteps over centuries. Yet the picture is startlingly intimate. Markets, courts, lovers' balconies, the roar of horses, and the steady drum of the sea. The oldest witnesses to Dwarka are poets and seers. The Mahābhārata speaks of a seat of power built by Krishna, a city glittering with gold and stone, with gates and docks, and a palace that reflected the sun. The Harivamsa, Bhagavad Purāṇa, and other Kavya layers elaborate, giving color and ritual shape. Temples, festivals, marriages, and counsel by moonlight. Listen to the poets. Dwarka is a refuge, a promise fulfilled. It is where Krishna, after years of wandering and war, secures a home for his people. The city is both sanctuary and stage, where divine play or Leela unfolds. There are verses that describe its walls as jeweled, its streets laid with marble, its harbors filled with ships. Images meant to awaken awe, devotion, and longing. The texts do not speak in archaeological categories. They speak in meaning. Yet, hidden in metaphor, they offer detail. Docks, submerged gateways, a sudden inundation, and the tragic fall of a clan. Importantly, the narratives do not present a neat, singular event. They layer myth and memory, battles, curses, internecine conflict, and finally, the withdrawal of divinity from the earth. In the final songs, the city's fate becomes part of the cosmos. The sea reclaims what the city had gained, and what remains is told again and again, at riverside temples, in festival chants, and in the hush of pilgrims kneeling by the shore. Let us walk the lanes. Envision Krishna as a presence both intimate and sovereign. He moves not only as a ruler, but as a friend, laughing with fishermen, arguing softly with ministers, teaching in courtyards. See Rukmini, steady and luminous, stepping across a marble threshold worn smooth by generations of sandals, her eyes carrying the quiet of loyalty. There is Arjuna too, a warrior whose friendship with Krishna becomes a moral compass, whose conversations under the canopy of night give birth to teachings that will travel beyond the city itself. Around them are artisans, sailors, sages who debate the nature of kingship, and young lovers who string garlands between balconies. Their daily rituals are small resistances against the tide of fate. Notice also the subtle tensions, ambition within the court, rivalries among clansmen, the restlessness of those who see empire as a test of strength, and of those who see service as the highest law. These human currents make the city sing and make it fragile. In a scene of evening, Krishna walks the ramparts alone. He listens to the surf. Instruments from the temple float a melody into the dusk. He knows predictions and possibilities. He knows his role. This is not only a ruler's solitude. It is the silence of someone who understands that every kingdom, however shining, carries its own shadow.
The seeds of decline are brushed into the story with inevitable, quiet cruelty, pride, prophecy, the sting of insult, and the human cost of anger. The Yādavas, for all their skill and joy, are also men who forget their limits. Fights that begin with words turn to weapons. Intoxication and arrogance unravel bonds. The texts tell of a curse, of counsel ignored, of a cruel turn in which brothers fell upon brothers. In one telling, the city's political fabric tears. In another, the sea itself rises to reclaim what had once been taken from the waves. Picture the last night, lamps guttering, priests chanting slow mantras, the sea's edge moving like an animal testing a fence. People gather at thresholds, some praying, others holding infants, the sound of drums diminished into the steady breathing of water. And then, not with a single roar, but with a series of small, terrifying arrivals, sand and salt enter the avenues. Temples take on a sheen of algae, and pillars, once proud, become columns beneath a green ceiling. The story preserves tragedy as sacred loss, a people undone by their own passions and folded back into the earth. How do scholars and seekers read these layers? In the modern age, there are several voices. Some read Dwaraka as primarily myth, a moral and devotional construct. Others ask, might memory be anchored to a real place? If so, where? In recent centuries, explorers and marine observers have noticed something at the western coast. Formations that may be natural or may be relics of ancient walls and platforms. Archaeologists have examined pottery, submerged stone, and structural hints. Each find invites debate rather than closure. For some scholars, even a modest set of remains becomes proof that memory had a geographical anchor. For others, the evidence is ambiguous. The sea can both bury and pretend. Beyond the soil and stone is a richer argument. Memory itself is an archaeological layer. Rituals, songs, place names, pilgrimages. These preserve orientation when the map fails. The tension between text and material
is not a contest to win. It is a conversation across centuries. Poets, priests, scientists, and fishermen, all speaking from different truths. Why does Dwarka endure in our souls? Because it answers a longing we repeat, that love and wisdom once built a city, that divinity touched the mundane, that home is possible even after exile. Krishna's life is woven into ethical and spiritual instruction, counsel to the warrior, tenderness to lovers, a model of leadership that is at once pragmatic and luminous. The city becomes a classroom and a temple. It survives because pilgrims still chant its name, because festivals relight the same stories, because a fisher putting a garland on a rock by the shore continues, quietly, the oldest vow. We remember what mattered. The survival is also practical. Dwarka's tales support social identity. They name a lineage, a cultural map, a place to return to in ritual imagination. On another level, the city's survival warns us. Wealth and architecture are not shields against hubris. The narratives that keep Dwarka alive insist that power without humility corrodes like iron in brackish water. So the story survives as both promise and admonition, beauty and fragility, devotion and caution interlaced.
In our age of megacities and shifting coastlines, Dwarka's echo has a fresh resonance. It asks, what do we leave behind? Temples, code, or kindness? It invites modern listeners to consider stewardship of shores, of memory, of governance. There is also a cultural humility here. The tale shows that human constructions, however skilled, remain fragile before nature's long patience. And for those who seek meaning, Dwarka suggests that the deepest cities are not built of stone alone, but of the practices that people pass to each other. Song, ritual, counsel, and care. So when we read of submerged walls or follow a diver's lamp through green water, we should also listen for the quiet human things that persist. A lullaby, an oath, a phrase of counsel repeated in a child's ear. Those are the foundations that do not erode. Listen. The sea answers in tide and song. It carries salt and memory, and sometimes, between two waves, a shadow of a wall seems briefly to breathe. We can map the coast, measure depths, and study shards of pottery. We can argue and excavate and compile evidence. Yet in the hush between those labors, there is a simpler thing. A person kneeling at the shore, offering a leaf and saying a name. Who then is keeper of the lost city? The scholar with her trowel, the fisherman with his net, the pilgrim with her chant, or the sea that keeps its own counsel? Perhaps all of them. And perhaps the real question is quieter. If a city can vanish and still be loved, what does that teach us about what we should build today? Will our cities be remembered for their markets, or for the kindness they inspired? Listen again to the waves. They do not answer with speech. They answer by returning what they will, and by holding what they will not. The last thing Dwarka asks of us is compassion. For the living, for the lost, and for the fragile constructions we call home. And so the story remains, not a footnote, but a tide line on the soul.
If you found this tale in your chest tonight, take it as a small charge. Hold gently what you build. I leave you with this. When you next walk by a shore, or enter a temple, or speak to a leader, ask quietly which city you are building. Because some cities are made to last beyond stone. Thank you for listening. May the tides carry wisdom to your doorstep.